Hey guys, would it be possible if we did a colorless goblin noise?
Shut up, Jerry.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at flipsidegaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. Just to let you know, Flipside Gaming is going to be giving away a full set of Commander 2019 when it releases to one lucky winner. The contest will be running from July 12th until August 26th, and all you have to do to enter is either use my promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, no spaces, on an order of over $10 or more, or you can send a stamped, self-addressed envelope or postcard to Flipside Gaming. It's one entry per person, so good luck, have fun, and I hope you win. Hey gang, and welcome back. Hopefully you can hear me better with the background music not being so loud in this game. Today's new game finds us at l'Abyss, and I'm playing my newly sleeved but shortly lived Experiment Kraj deck. I keep an Island, a Fauna Shaman, Yang Yu, Steel Hellkite, Magus the Candelabra, and Cephalid Colosseum. Vincent has built the very interesting and very uncommon Maraxus, keeping a Haunted Cloak, Blackblade Reforged, Myriad Landscape, Mountain, Rogue's Passage, and Armory Automaton. Romain is playing his Emmara deck, keeping Huatli Radiant Champion, Sidar Kondo, Spear of Heliod, Smuggler's Copter, Forest, Grasslands, and Gavany Township. Last but not least, Sam is back with Chainer, and he keeps 3 Swamps, Cryptghast, Grave Titan, Cabal Coffers, and Liliana of the Dark Realms. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and luckily find a forest, playing it and casting Magus of the Candelabra. Vincent plays a tap Myriad Landscape, passing to Sam. Sam plays a swamp and passes. Romain plays a tap Grasslands and passes. I play an island and cast Fauna Shaman, passing. Vincent plays a mountain and pays 2 for a Dowsing Dagger. He gives the plant tokens to Romain and passes. Sam plays a swamp and passes. Romain cracks his Grasslands in his main phase to find a Temple Garden, taking 2 to have it come in untapped. He plays a forest and casts Emmara, passing. I play an island and cast Yang Yu, down ticking the Walker to put a counter onto the Magus, and I pass my turn. Vincent plays a Rogue's Passage and cracks his Landscape to find 2 mountains before passing turn. Sam plays a Swamp and brings out Grim Haruspex. Romain drops a Gavany Township and looks around the board. He pays 2 for a Smuggler's Copter in his main phase, passing turn. At the end of turn, I tap the Magus for mana thanks to Yang Yu, and I activate Fauna Shaman, discarding Steel Hellkite to go and find Incubation Sage. I draw for turn and play a forest. I cast the Sage, and in my main phase, down-tick my Walker once she's resolved to give her a +1/+1 counter. I then pass turn. Vincent pays 3 for an Inspiring Sanctuary in his main phase, and taps 2 artifacts and a land to help pay for Seething Song. He uses 3 of the floating red to cast Armory Automaton, equipping the dagger to it as it enters. He then drops a Blackblade Reforged and realizes he missequenced that before passing to Sam. Sam plays a Cabal Coffers and activates it to make 3 black. He taps his final swamp for the mana he needs to cast Liliana of the Dark Realms, and upticks her to go and find a swamp before passing turn. At the end of Sam's turn, Romain uses Emmara to crew his Copter, making a soldier token as she's tapped from her ability. Romain plays a Survivor's Encampment as his land for turn, and taps Emmara to use the encampment to help pay for Heliod's Spear. He gains another soldier token for tapping her, and he crews up the Copter. Moving to combat, he swings it at Liliana of the Dark Realms, drawing and discarding a card before it connects and takes the Walker out. I play Blighted Woodlands before passing to Vincent. Vincent plays a skull clamp and then a haunted cloak. Moving to combat, he swings the automaton at Romain, and the automaton's ability triggers, letting Vincent equip all the gear to his robot. Romain's ready though, who quickly taps his creatures and is able to convoke Devouring Light to exile the automaton. Moving to his second main phase, Vincent has nothing to do and passes turn. Sam plays a swamp and activates the coffers to help cast Cryptcast. None too keen on this, I flash in Mystic Snake to counter it. With his mana doubler gone, Sam uses Sign in Blood, targeting himself to lose 2 life and draw 2 cards. He passes, and at the end of turn, I crack the Blighted Woodland to find 2 basics. Romain has no land to play, and checks out my Fauna Shaman. He pays 4 to cast Sidar Kondo, and crews the copter with one of his plants. Moving to combat, the copter heads towards Vincent, Emmara at my planeswalker, and the soldiers at Sam. Romain gets to draw a card and discard a card, with Vincent taking 4 while I block with my snake, and Sam takes 4 while Romain gains 4 life from the soldiers. I draw for turn and cast Experiment Kraj. I play a tap Botanical Sanctum as my land for turn, before passing. Vincent taps an artifact and a mountain to help cast Direfleet Daredevil in his main phase. It enters, and he exiles Sam's Sign in Blood. And Vincent taps 2 more artifacts to pay for the spell. He loses 2 life and draws 2 cards to it. Vincent then evokes an Ingot Chewer to take out the spear. And then with the help of the artifacts, drops Daretti. He upticks Daretti, discarding 2 and drawing 2, and plays one of the cards, a mountain. He's then able to equip the cloak onto his Daredevil, and he passes to Sam. Sam activates his coffers to help pay for Massacre Worm. Vincent and I both lose a creature, which has us lose 2 life, while Romain isn't so lucky, losing his tokens and taking 8. Moving to combat, Daretti meets the Grim Haruspex and loses 3. And Sam casts Illusionist Bracers in his second main phase before passing. For Romain's turn, he recasts Emmara, sadly unable to play a land that he hasn't drawn. He taps her to crew up the copter, gaining a soldier token, and heads to combat. He swings the copter at Daretti to take him out, and passes after drawing and discarding a card. I draw for turn and cast Coiling Oracle. I'm hoping to get some gas at this point, but the Wirewood Lodge I reveal and put to the field ain't it, and I have to pass to Vincent. Vincent's turn has more artifacts being tapped to help pay for Maraxus, and since Maraxus' power and toughness will change constantly throughout the course of the game, Vincent kindly provides us with a die to keep track of it. He pays some mana to equip the Dowsing Dagger to his commander, and then the Haunted Cloak, and he passes after that. Sam activates his coffer to make a ton of mana, which he uses to help pay for Meteor Golem. It comes in and blows up my Incubation Druid, which I think is pretty unnecessary, and he then passes. Romain drops a Glare of Subdual in his main phase, the wannabe opposition, and he crews up his copter. He swings the copter at me, and Emmara at Sam, and he isn't afraid that his commander will be blocked thanks to Sidar Kondo. He draws and discards before Sam and I take 2 and 3 respectively. And at the end of turn, I tap my Kraj to put a +1/+1 counter on the Coiling Oracle. My turn is pretty quick, as I draw and I pass. Vincent draws and plays a mountain, counting up how big Maraxus is. He gears up his buff boy with a Blackblade Reforged before declaring he'll move to combat. Romain preemptively decides to tap down Maraxus, with Vincent promising he wasn't going to attack him. To get some revenge, Vincent pays 5 for a Volcanic Offering. He chooses to destroy Romain's encampment and deals 7 damage to Kraj. In response, I tap Kraj to let the Oracle get another counter, and Vincent lets me pick the next land and creature to get it. I go for the Cabal Coffers because Vincent obviously doesn't want to be the bad guy with facing Sam, and the Grim Haruspex also eat 7. With Sam's main source of excessive mana down, he casts a Humble Disciple of Bolas in his main phase. It enters, and he sacrifices the Massacre Worm to draw 6 and gain 6 life. We then see a Jet Medallion from Sam before he passes turn. Romay finds his 5th land for the game, which has sadly become the 4th land he controls as he plays a forest. He casts Watley, Radiant Champion, and crews his Copter making a soldier token. He upticks her, putting her to 10, and heads to combat. He swings the Copter at Sam again for 3, drawing and discarding a card. I play Cephalid Coliseum for my land for turn, and recast my commander before passing to Vincent. Vincent draws and counts up his relevant permanents from Maraxus. Making a deal with Romain that he won't attack him, Vincent swings his beefy boy at me. I put the Coiling Oracle in front of his commander, stopping 3 but still taking 18 commander damage. This also lets Vincent transform his Dowsing Dagger into a Lost Veil. We then see a Stolen Stratagem in his second main phase before he passes to Sam. Sam drops another Foily Swamp and brings out Chainer in his main phase. He passes, and at the end of turn, Romain uses his army to tap down a lot of creatures with the Glare of Subdual. Romain plays a Plains for his turn, and down takes his Walker to use her ultimate. With the ability on the stack, Sam activates Chainer, losing 3 life to bring back his Massacre Worm. With the Massacre Worm's ability hitting the stack, Romain activates his Gavaning Township, giving his creatures a +1/+1 counter. With that ability on the stack, he also taps a Soldier to crew the Copter, and puts a +1/+1 counter onto everything. Sadly, the soldiers then all die, and Romain takes another 6 damage. Moving to combat, he swings the Copter and Emmara at Sam, gaining a soldier token, drawing and discarding a card, and then dealing 3 damage. With nothing else, he passes to me. I draw for turn and play an island for my land. I then cast Cursed Bounty on Romain, and then a Sage of Hours. I swing the Magus at Romain, which triggers the curse, and with it on the stack, I tap Kraj to put a counter on my Sage. I then untap Kraj and the Magus. Romain announces he'll block with Sidar, which has me tapping Kraj to put another counter on the Magus so it won't die. Before damage is dealt though, Vincent announces he has something, which from my experience is rarely a good sign. He casts Arc Bond on Sidar Kondo, who upon taking 3 damage, then deals 3 damage to every other creature and each player. The only benefit of this is with Chainer dying, Sam has to exile the Massacre Worm, which I guess is a kind of a win, so I pass. On Vincent's upkeep, his opponents exile their top cards to the Stratagem trigger. He draws for turn, and to the surprise of no one, is happy to cast Sam's Demonic Tutor by tapping some artifacts. He puts the card to hand, and plays a tap Valakut before counting up his remaining untapped permanents. He then casts Romain's Clamp, and heads to combat, hitting Sam for 20 commander damage. Sam untaps and is still a bit shaken from the impact of Maraxus from the last turn. He casts Phyrexian Altar and then a Blood Artist. He then finishes his turn with a Grave Pact before passing to Romain. Romain draws and drops a Forest. He pays 6 for Emmara once more, and crews up the Copter, gaining a soldier token. He swings the Copter at Vincent, drawing and discarding before dealing damage. I draw for turn, and I crack my Colosseum, drawing many lands. I have to discard them, and I keep the slightly better than a land, but not by much, Quest for Renewal, casting it and passing. We resolve the Stratagem trigger once more on Vincent's upkeep, and the only card that Vincent could cast is my Triumph of the Horde, which he is loath to do because of his intense dislike for Infect. Sam suggests that Vincent doesn't attack him if he wants to connect, and Vincent agrees, instead casting all his dust. He then taps some lands and some artifacts to bring back Maraxus, and then pays 1 to put the cloak onto him before passing to Sam. Sam pays 5 in his main phase for Mikaeus the Unhallowed, and follows up with some new shiny shoes for him. He equips them and passes to Romain. Romain draws and casts a Raska Explorer, and goes to search his library for some lands. He grabs 2, as 2 of his opponents have more lands than he does, and he puts them to hand. We then see another Convoke spell, but this time without tapping creatures, and he has Conclave Tribunal come in, and puts the ability on the stack to target the cloak. It resolves, and he passes to me. I draw for turn, and cast Scrib Ranger. It's not going to do a heck of a lot of good for me right now, so I pass to Vincent. Vincent draws for turn, and plays a mountain. He bolts the Oresco Explorer as it enters with a Valakut trigger, and responding to the trigger on the stack, Romain taps his Oresco Explorer to crew the copter before it dies, and he moves a Black Blade to Maraxus. He then makes his commander unblockable with Rogue's Passage, and swings it at Romain for Xaxes to take him out. The Tribunal spell goes with him, and it returns Vincent's Haunted Cloak as a result. Vincent then moves the gear onto his commander before passing to Sam. Sam draws for turn and casts an Arcana Revenant, and then an Abhorrent Overlord. It comes in and gives him 7 Harpies. He sacrifices it to the altar to make a black mana, and brings it back with the Undying trigger, making 7 more Harpies as it enters. Some of the Harpies then follow the example of the Overlord, and Sam has Chainer come in and then loses half of his life, which at this point means 3 life, to bring back Blood Artist. Between the Altar and the Overlord and the Undying triggers, Sam is able to loop through this and drains us out with the Blood Artist, winning the game. Game review time! Before today, I don't think I ever gave Mono Red Voltron a second thought, but after seeing Vincent's Maraxus deck, I'm certainly interested. What I enjoyed the most was the dynamic between Maraxus' ability and how Vincent chose to cast his spells and when to resolve things. Obviously, with his commander out, you typically want to cast spells in the second main phase, and Vigilance is probably one of the premium keywords for the deck, as it allows him to attack with his commander without tapping him and therefore losing 1 power and 1 toughness each time. Romain's Emmara deck proves once again why Emmara is literally the queen of crewing, and having seen it in action, I now understand why the Smuggler's Copter was banned in Standard. Romain was able to filter so many cards and went very deep into his library just from swinging each turn. So in a 60 card deck, I can imagine this adds up very quickly and sees you a lot of cards. Sam's Chainer deck is a typical mono black deck, but I love Chainer. I love the downside of being able to reanimate things by paying life and mana, and also potentially losing your creature if Chainer dies. I think it's a pretty fair commander, and I especially loved how Sam won the game. He used Mikaeus, that's no doubt, but he used him in such a way that wasn't as degenerate as say Mike and Trike combo. He needed to have a very specific board state, and it took him a few turns to get there, but he was able to build it up, and I really enjoyed the fact that he used an Abhorrent Overlord, which highlights one of my favorite mechanics, which is Devotion. If you're wondering why I don't still have my Experiment Kraj deck anymore, it's because when I built this deck, the previews for Modern Horizons hadn't started, the previews for Core Set hadn't started, and frankly, with the Commander set coming out in a few weeks, I was pretty underwhelmed with the Commander, and I felt like I'd be able to find an easy replacement of something I'd want to build later on. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.